Peace, love, respect. Big King Sadiq hollering at you one more again. All right, folks. Well, need to touch on a pretty important topic. I'll try not to make the video too long. But this topic is on addiction to negative words, right? And two negative words in particular that I'll get to. But first of all, the reason why this is very important is words are extremely powerful, right? Words are us utilizing concentrated thought to such a level that we express ourselves verbally and audibly, right? Now, the reason that that's important is because concentrated thought is one of the biggest tools, right, for us to be able to manifest, right? Remember, I in previous videos talked a lot about how most of the time we manifest as a result of our subconscious thought. But when you speak, there's something to that old term or the old saying where they talk about speaking things into existence. Because when you speak, you have to formulate a cognitive thought, right? And that takes some degree of concentration. When you utilize that much concentration to actually formulate a thought that you need to or feel that you need to express audibly, then you're in fact impacting your reality with what you've spoken, right? So that touches a little bit on the importance of why we shouldn't negate the importance of what we say out of our mouths, right? Now, the two words that I want to address in this video are the words kid or kids, and the other word is nigga, N-I-G-G-A, which has grown to have somewhat a life of its own, apart from the disparaging term nigger, right? N-I-G-G-E-R. But I'll talk about in a minute how it still has certainly just as much detriment, if not more. But for now, first I'm going to start with the word kids. So I don't know exactly when we first began adopting this as a social trend in this country, to call our children kids, right? I'm certain it happened many decades ago. People were referring to children as kids when I was growing up, so certainly it's something that's before my time. I'm only 46. Hey, folks, have a great night. Peace, love, respect. And it's something that, like I said, goes back quite a few decades, right? But at any rate, we should examine it. First of all, people have convinced themselves as to say, well, it's short for children. No, it's not. That's just incorrect. It's not. Linguistically, kids is not short for children. When you do a little looking into it, just in terms of what it does refer to, in terms of denotation or quote unquote dictionary meaning, right? It refers to a baby goat, right? It does give reference to the fact that it is used commonly in society as a reference to children, but as far as an actual definition, it refers to a baby goat. Then when we start to look at some of the connotations of it, common meanings, and actually look into some of the esoteric or occult meanings, is where it starts to get a little heavy, really heavy actually. First of all, before we even do that, it's just already presented itself as incorrect, right? Why do we need to refer to our human children with the same term that is used to refer to the children of goats? It simply does not make sense. But to go further beyond that, again, touching on the occult meaning, which, folks, many people may wonder, why is that such an, like, why do we need to care what meaning this holds in adults or occult circles, right? And the unfortunate reality and truth of the matter is that in this country, in particular, and in the world in general, there's a whole lot more occult activity going on than what most people tend to believe, right? In fact, historically, if you look throughout history, the occult has had profound impact on this world. The Nazis, certainly a very profound impact on the world. Huge believers in the occult and huge practitioners of the occult. All right, just to give you an example of the scope of what I'm talking about. So, the occult meaning of this, apparently, or at least one occult meaning of the word kids, refers to a ritualistic sacrifice to the demigod or idol, or to the being, whatever reference you want to use, Baphomet, right? And we're literally talking about some form of a sacrificial offering. Hey, how you doing? All right. Hey, what's up, little guy? That's my buddy. Hey, say hi real quick. Hi. How you doing? Yeah, if I had Zeus, I'll tell Zeus you said hi.
Yeah, I was going to say, where's your dad?
All right. Bye-bye. I'll catch you next time, little buddy.
Yeah.
That's my friend, folks. I had to say hi to my little doggy buddy. And I'm sorry, what's your name again?
Andrea.
Andrea. Let me give you my card. Oh, maybe I don't have any more on me. But King Sadiq.
King
Sadiq, S-A-D-I-Q. And next time I see you, I promise to have some more cards on me for my book on my YouTube channel.
Oh, perfect. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much. I'm actually recording now, so you're going to be on the video. Not your face, but yeah. Have a great day. Very nice lady who I bump into often in the neighborhood when I'm walking my son's dog, Zeus, my little buddy. All right. Very nice looking, very handsome, gray pit bull with gray eyes. That's my man. So anyway, yeah, with that word kids, we're literally referring to a ritualistic sacrificial offering to Baphomet. And, perhaps could even have reference to offerings to other, idols or quote unquote ritualistic purposes or other to other quote unquote demigods or whatever. Usually, in reality, what we're talking about is fourth dimensional entities. Let's just demystify that whole thing. That's what we're usually talking about. But anyway, yeah, but it also refers to the fact that America, to pay its debt back to the International Banking Consortium that provided that financial bailout from the Great Depression, which brought upon using American citizens as collateral and actually counting them as stock with Social Security numbers. It would also refer to the way we sacrifice our children to that debt, right? Each human being is counted on to be a cog in the machine in this country and earn back X amount of money during their lifetime that will be spent upon corporate goods or benefiting corporate interest in some way, right? And this is sort of the deal, sort of the big payback. This is why they want you to be slaves, right? I wish I could soften the blow a little on that, but anyway, getting back to that terminology. So why would we want to do this to our children, right? First of all, even if you don't believe or aren't able to substantiate any of what I've just said, and I always say, do your own fact checking to substantiate these things. I'm comfortable with whatever I say when I say it and with what I've studied, right? I don't just shoot off at the mouth and say just anything without doing research or having already done research on that subject, right? But I always say that each individual has got to do their own individual research, right? But yeah, why would, even if none of the stuff I've just said is able to be substantiated, it's fact that it's not short, kids is not short for children. And it is factual that it refers to baby goats. Like, why do we need to do that? There's no logical reasoning behind our adherence, our addiction to that word. Why, who started it, right? Think about that. Why have we become so accustomed to it that many people don't even give it a thought at all? Like many people don't even use the word children. They just say kids all the time. Yeah, my kids, kids. Yeah, my kids, all these kids, right? All the time. We spit out that word in reference to education, all the time. So, just to wrap that up, even if none of the things I feel I've uncovered about that word apply, just a simple definition tells you it doesn't make sense for us to be referring to our children in this way. It just doesn't. So if it doesn't make any sense for us to refer to our children in this way, why are we so addicted to this word? There's something behind that, right? And again, like I said, once you do that sort of investigation, then you find a little more about what I've just revealed, right? So that's kids, and why that is such a terrible word to me and one that I've stricken from my vocabulary. And then the other one, which is just as damaging, is the word nigga. Now, this is a very interesting addiction to me. And I'm going to start by using a little bit of historical reference. And what I mean by that is I'm going to refer briefly to Elijah Muhammad. Though it may be very controversial in the eyes of many, and I understand that, you know, how folks could have a lot of emotional reactions just to Mr. Muhammad's name, right? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But anyway, I thought that he referenced this addiction a little bit in a very interesting way when he talked about the quote-unquote slave mentality, right? And he likened it to the mentality or the psychological makeup of a battered woman in an abusive relationship, right? It is a process of conditioning, right? And I stress the word process, which means this is something that doesn't happen overnight, folks. Didn't happen over a couple of years. Didn't even happen over a couple of decades, right? This is a process that has been drilled into the minds of black folks in particular in the United States. And now beginning to, through the use, which I made a previous video just yesterday talking about how hip-hop has been attacked and corrupted and misguided by the music industry. But it's being used also to further this particular agenda and have that word even more widespread, where you're seeing youth of all ages refer to themselves and each other with that terminology. And listen, this has been a hot topic for us for a long time, for as long as we've been using it, right? I remember how Richard Pryor talked about and how he was, you know, a comedian who used that word a lot, right? But after he went to Africa and visited, I believe, a couple of countries in the continent, he saw black people everywhere and hadn't once heard that word. And it threw him and made him realize we're not that, right? We're not that. And he struck it from his language and changed his shows around, and I thought that was really profound. But anyway, you know, Tupac had a real interesting thing that he did and tried to put a positive spin on it. Never ignorant, getting goals accomplished, right? And I understand that the intent behind that, and I applaud the intent behind that, right? But the bottom line is a quick positive spin is not going to be efficient or effective in counteracting what has been drilled in place for decades, right? And all the negative stigma that goes with it. I've even heard, you know, some really high-profile musical artists particularly some hip hop artists, like if I'm not mistaken, Jay-Z got on the Oprah Winfrey show and sort of defended the modern use of the word nigga versus nigger, and I've heard that argument, and to me it's pretty weak. But I can't place judgment on anybody one way or the other. Just the argument itself, I felt like was pretty weak. Trying to say that, oh, it's just a term of endearment. It's something that, shows how close we are. Oh, man, you my nigga, man. You my nigga through thick and thin and all that, And sometimes we do use it like that. But most of the time, realistically, let's be real, right? We use it with something negative attached to it or something negative in mind, right? Kill this nigga, bitch ass nigga. This nigga up, something negative, right? Well, that nigga ain't shit, or this and that, and it's always something that is used as a mental trigger to dehumanize the person that it's describing or being thrown upon. So let me repeat once again, in a nutshell, why this is so devastatingly harmful. It is a mental trigger used to instantly dehumanize the person that it's referring to or being thrown upon or used to describe in some fashion. Period. Often we don't realize it. We often do it subconsciously, but we do it nonetheless. And that's the reality of it. There's nothing positive to be had from adhering to using that word. There's no spin we can put on it. There's no logical defense that we can mount for it. What good has it? Where has it gotten us? Being a nigga for life. What has that ever gotten anybody? Let's think, folks. Let's wake up and think for a minute. So yeah, this is, it's a little ugly, but it's real. I told y'all in 2020, we're going to have to take a look at some things that may be ugly, that may be harsh, that may be difficult. But that's the only way you grow and move past the problem, is you identify it, right? You analyze the root of that problem, and then you identify potential solutions until you hammer down one that's viable, or several that are viable, right? And this is what we've got to do. Have a good one, man. We have got to no longer want to tuck our tail between our legs or just be too busy to be bothered with thinking about it, or whatever our excuse is. These things that have been separating us for so long, these things that have been tearing at our hearts for so long, right? We got to address them and get rid of them, period. It's time to grow up and mature as a species. Like I say all the time, we are of one energy. Many, many different expressions, but the same energy nonetheless. We got to wake up. We got to grow up. We have to mature as a species, as a civilization, to move forward. This is what we have to do. Let's grow up. Worldwide movement. Peace, love, respect. Big King Sadiq.